All right, well, welcome, Becky Splitt from StudyBlue. Thank you very much for joining us today. Obviously, some very cool announcements coming out of StudyBlue. I'd love if you just wanted to start by telling us a little bit about the announcement and about the initiative, and even maybe a little background on StudyBlue, and then we can chat about what all this means and sort of the broader context of student-driven studying.
Sure. Would love to do that. So our announcement this week is about unveiling what we call the world's largest study group. And really what we've done is taken the power of all of the explanations around all of the topics that students are studying in StudyBlue, and for the first time made that available to all of them in a very easy way to benefit from sharing and comparing their explanations with each other. And ultimately our view is that the learning really happens when the individual understands something in their own words and is able to explain them themselves and ultimately explain it on a test. And the old adage that you learn it best when you explain it to others is pretty powerful. We believe that the internet, the technology, smartphones, everything's perfectly aligned to take the power of that to the masses in a way that students should be able to share and compare and learn from each other's explanations without having to be in the same geography at the same time, and take away the intimidations that block a lot of students that actually otherwise could meet together in study groups and rarely do.
Excellent, excellent. So tell me a little bit about the content that's already been on StudyBlue that's now being more widely available in kind of this group setting. Yeah,
so to date, StudyBlue's delivered pretty powerful mobile tools that allow students to bring their content online into a digital backpack and use our software to turn it into flashcards, quizzes, and outlines or review sheets to study it across any device, keep track of what they know and don't know. And we've always had the concept that students could make their material public and view other people's material and their own if they choose. And so for the last year and a half, we've been slowly, kind of quietly behind the scenes, amassing a pretty large database of shared material that's all user-generated material that is tagged to the topic being studied, the university or high school, the class, the professor, the book, whatever the students choose to tell us about that material, which is pretty vast. It's been this chicken and egg where until we actually had great tools that students were using, we couldn't develop this pretty powerful knowledge base that we could then put in their hands to benefit from them in the process. So we have now over 40 million different pieces of content, questions, answers. Most of them come to us in the form of flashcards. We had about 2 million of those at the start of the last school year, about 18 months ago, and now we're getting about 2 million a week. So the growth has been phenomenal. There's definitely a strong desire by students to be able to make their material mobile and study it on the phone, and flashcard-like studying is the perfect metaphor for that.
That's awesome. So this is strictly smartphone, tablet stuff, right, as opposed to being able to pop into a feature phone?
We do have a web-based service that works through any browser. So in that you want to do something from your browser, you can, any smartphone with browser access does have access to StudyBlue. The native apps, the Android apps and the iOS app, are really where a lot of the excitement and usage and the much more powerful user experience comes from.
Nice. Are you seeing students just adopting this independently, or are there schools that are saying, hey, you should check this out and use this kind of institutionally?
No, we don't do a lot to help that, but when we have, a year ago when I started, when we talked to administrators who are really interested in colleges and high schools, they move so slowly that we typically had more students from their university or school on StudyBlue by the time they decided they would start a beta than so it was just not time effective, if you will. Right. So yeah, so it also is in line with the fact that another fundamental premise is that the most effective way to improve education is by having students help each other, which is really what this release is all about. So I'm going to make one other comment on that that's significant. There is an exception in high school. About half of our high school and in some cases middle school users find us because of a recommendation from a teacher. And that's been an amazing surprise to us because we don't market to teachers. because they fundamentally see StudyBlue as a way to introduce the technology to students that will engage them in their material without having to change their habits, change their curriculum, request budget approvals. That's pretty powerful.
Oh, no, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. If it's driven by the students, I think you're right, we've certainly seen this, over at WizIQ, right? It's easy for students to pop on and for individuals to take this up, but really for an institution to run with it, it's painful at best. So that's wonderful. So in terms of the contents, it's all student-generated content, right? Are there kind of standards aligned, things that tie into this, or really the students are taking what they're learning and they're tossing it out there?
It's the latter. So we see, learning happens in 3 stages. A teacher explains material to students. Students have to capture their explanations and explain it to themselves, and then they have to explain it on a test. We are all about the intersection between the teaching and the testing or credentialing. So StudyBlue's content is all user-generated content that is students explaining in their own words what it is they're trying to learn.
That's brilliant. Glad someone came with that idea. I've got to tell my kids about this. So I know in terms of kind of sustainability, because it seems amazing, but how do you see this kind of moving forward in the future?
What's pretty amazing is I'll kind of do a futuristic today comment about that and then roll it back. I was in a meeting in California last week in a coffee shop, and somebody was ordering wheat germ pancakes. And I was demoing what we had just released to them, and I typed in wheat germ pancakes. And there was nearly 100 cards on StudyBlue made about wheat germ pancakes. And we clicked through to one of them, and it was a high school student, literally 2 miles from where we were, who was studying her science and language on StudyBlue and had added the IHOP menu to it because she had just gotten a job at IHOP and she had to memorize it.
Wow.
So the amazing thing is, if you look on StudyBlue, you'll find thousands of flashcards that are bartender cards. And it's college students that now have taken what they're using to learn stuff for a class, and they're using it to capture anything that they need to review multiple times to remember.
Wow. That's a good idea.
So futuristically, you can talk about going up into, PhD programs and adult learning, down into middle school and further. But really, I think what's going to happen, because this is an open platform, we don't restrict you, anything you want to learn, bird watching in sub-Saharan South Africa, there's probably somebody else who's learning that and interested in connecting with you.
Wow. That's really outstanding. I now need to go check this out, because one, I don't remember anything ever, and it just in one ear not the other. So this may be a pretty tool for me. But having a couple of kids on the autistic spectrum as well, things that allow them to, one, have a very sort of safe social learning environment, but also to kind of generate their own learning and review materials. They're not getting necessarily the support they should be getting, and I'd rather have them take ownership and responsibility of it for themselves. So very, very, very interesting. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.